of what is happening in our country. The president informed the country that his economy is doing well. What a myth. What data informed the president's position that our economy is doing well? Is the president relying on the imperialist analysis from the IMF that states that the government is doing well? What informed the IMF decision when hundreds of our people are going to bed without food? When millions of our children are going to bed without food? When mothers in this country cannot take their children to hospitals? When fathers cannot even afford to send their kids to school? What informed the president's decision to say that the economy is doing well? We believe that the president's declaration that the country's economy is performing is devilish in nature and unpatriotic at the heart core. And that statement should have been resisted by men and women at the legislature who consider themselves the representative of the people. To watch the president make such utterances at the legislature without a swift rebuttal from men and women who should be questioning the president of some of the things he said at the legislature, we believe that situation rendered the national legislature and the event that occurred at the national legislature as a state funeral. Fellow citizens, members of the media, the president, again, without even giving us an empirical data about how the economy is performing, knowing fully well that the agricultural sector should be a bedrock of the economy, the president did not provide any scientific data to show to us, Liberians and the international partner, that they have succeeded in creating jobs using the agricultural sector. So we are baffled by the president's pronouncement that the economy is doing well without providing us any data. The Economic Freedom Fighters of Liberia believe that the president's statement, again, was a devilish one and required state resistance for men and women who are representative of the people in the national legislature. Fellow citizens, members of the press, religious leaders, the student bodies of our country, the president spoke about fighting corruptions. We heard that message once again coming from a loose talker who should be a president. The president was loosely in his statements when he said that his government is fighting corruption. Of reason, the United States government sanctioned 3 of the president's close allies up to today because the president is in consistent fear that those who, the United States government sanctions will come after the president if he does not protect them. The president is on record of using state money to finance these government officials to run for office. How then can the president, in his narrow minds and limited understanding of global events, take the podium at the national legislature to say that his government is fighting corruption? What informed? What provides the president with such courage to stand before the people representative to say that his government is fighting corruption? When in fact the reason the president and the rest of the other people butchered the Liberian Constitution to weaken the Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission. When in fact the Supreme Court, that should be the foundation of our judicial system, is being bankrolled to undermine the Constitution of our country. Today, the laws of our state now can be retroactive when the Constitution is clear that laws cannot be retroactive. What informed the president's decision to waste our time for 3 good hours to say that his government is fighting corruption? Fellow citizens, we believe strongly that the president played mockery out of the Liberian people by wasting our times to talk about his country, his government is fighting corruption. The president government was never fighting corruption and will never fight corruption. Because they have shown us no indication whatsoever that they believe in the fight against corruption. Fellow citizens, members of the Economic Freedom Fighters of Liberia, the Fourth Estate, the president said he took steps to heal the wounds of our nation. Again, what a myth. How can the president have the audacity to say that he helped to heal the wounds of our country when the instrument that should have been the yardstick for healing the wounds of our country has been consistently violated and disrespected? The Economic Freedom Fighters of Liberia joined well-meaning Liberians for the last 6 years to protest for the establishment of World and Economic Crime Court in Liberia, for the establishment of Anti-Corruption Court in Liberia. The president and his government, because they are direct perpetrators of the crimes that we are talking about, refused to establish an Anti-Corruption Court in Liberia, but rather they took steps forward to weaken the LFCC. Today we have no Anti-Corruption Court in Liberia. We have no World and Economic Crime Court in Liberia, an indication that the president is not interested in healing the wounds of our nation. But the president will have the audacity to stand in the chambers of the legislature to say that he's healing the wounds of our nation. We believe strongly that the president played mockery out of the people. This is hypocrisy at the highest level. And we believe strongly that the president should be resisted for such comments. The president also emphasized that his government is doing well in the education sector. Again, what well? What well? When parents cannot afford to send their children to school, and you claim that your administration is doing well in the education sector. Go to the University of Liberia. See the classroom where our brothers and sisters are seated. You claim you're providing free education to our people, but at the same time, our brothers and sisters, young people, who are future leaders of our country, men and women home, the destiny of the country is resting on the shoulder. They're seated on blocks. And then you claim that your government is doing well and investing millions of dollars in education. Why play mockeries of the future leaders of the country? Look across the country. How many government schools being renovated? How many government schools can boast of chairs? How many government schools? And yet you have the courage to say that your government is investing in education. We see that as a mockery. We see that as a mockery. To the men and women who are seated in waterside struggling on a daily basis to have little income to send their children to school. The government scores 0 in the education sector. So the president cannot boast. What the president bragging about investing in education and doing well in education? He's doing nothing. That's why we classify the State of the Nation address as a state-style funeral service for a man who committed genocide against the people. Members of the media, we want to say this in our conclusion, that we are aware that the central bank will function at the CDC headquarters within the next few days. We are aware that the central bank governor's new office will be the hierarchy of the CDC headquarters. They will bankroll the so-called 1 million man march to create an impression that the government is doing well. When in fact, how can you even in their narrow minds say that they are organizing 1 million man march to a stadium that cannot even host 15,000 human beings? The ATS cannot even host 15,000 human beings. And you say you are organizing 1 million man march. Where would the 1 million man people be? To a stadium that cannot host 1 million, that cannot host 15,000. You see the government struggling with propaganda. And because they want to create an impression Look in the streets of Monrovia. The flyers is everywhere. And that was the reason why the City Hall came up with a regime to remove all billboard, to issue a contract to Jefferson Kochi Bear Boys to erect signboards in the street so that they can undermine the democratic space. Because as a movement, which one of the political party or political leader will have the power to post flyers on the street? When they have seized all the billboards, all the light posts belong to the government. George, we have photos everywhere. So tomorrow morning, I cannot even pay for a space to put my billboard up. It is a sad moment that the central bank governor has relocated to the CDC headquarters for his official home, just to create an impression. The Liberian dollar, and that's why from the initial stage, we resisted the printing of new Liberian banknote because we knew that that process was a trap for the opposition. But some of the weak-minded individuals in the opposition who cannot analyze anything, they saw it as a way of creating change in the economy. They accepted that, approved that in the legislature. Today, they are very pro-crime. So it was not be surprising for the central bank governor to be at the CDC headquarters acting on behalf of the ruling party. We conclude by saying, if this president means well for our country, he should take swift actions against men and women who have been sanctioned in the government, people who have been alleged to have stolen government money. He should take action against them. You cannot call the American government our traditional partner and disrespect them at the same time. You cannot do that. We want to thank you as usual. I know we have a barrage of questions from the media. I see people smiling because we have said a lot. I know they want to question on some of the things we have said. And we are always prepared and excited to receive your questions. And I know we can respond to that. Thank you so much. May God bless you.